Hi, welcome to 312, the HRP Podcast. This episode is a special takeover from our other YouTube series called Storytime with Bubba, where our longtime HRP employee, Brian Bubba Beaulieu, gives you an oral history of HRP, the company. Now, if you are listening out there to the podcast, we want to let you know that the entire episode will be available as a video on our YouTube channel. Head over to HRP Associates Inc. on YouTube and check us out there. But of course, you can listen to the whole thing here as well. So now we'll send you over to Bubba.
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Storytime with Bubba. I'm Brian Bubba Beaulieu, and we're here again.
Wait. Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on.
All right.
Story time with Uncle Bubba?
No, just Storytime with Bubba, not Uncle Bubba.
You've stolen it. Nim. I've been watching your podcast.
Have you now?
I got a few bones to pick.
Do you now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, some revisionist history going on
Pray
here,
tell.
I think.
Well, I try to give a history as I recall it, but unfortunately my memory's not always the greatest.
Yeah, well, yeah, and neither's mine, but I think between the two of us, we could probably come up with a fairly accurate story.
Okay, so what exactly are we doing? Renaming this Story Time with Uncle Mike?
Temporarily, I guess.
Temporarily?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm all right with that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Uncle Mike,
I'm
who are you?
Well, I am Mike Peck. I am HRP employee number 5.
And currently we're up over 650. Yeah.
Back then, it wasn't the Arabic 5. They used the Roman numeral 5.
Really? It was way back in the dark ages.
Way back in the dark ages.
Oh, okay. Roman numeral 5.
Roman numeral 5.
What's that? V?
That's right.
Is that a V?
V.
I did well. Okay.
Yeah.
Yay me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. So, Mike Peck.
Yeah.
Welcome to Storytime with Bubba. And
well, thank you.
Even though it's now dubbed Storytime with Uncle Mike.
Questionable, yeah. But
well, yeah, questionable.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure how many stories we're going to get to today, but okay. So let's start at the begining.
All right.
Literally the beginning of HRP.
Literally the beginning of HRP.
Yeah.
I mean, to be perfectly honest, I am the brother-in-law of the P.
Oh, here we go.
In HRP.
What is that called when it's family members?
Nepotism.
Nepotism. That's why this guy's here.
Nepotism. So I worked with Mark in Middletown for a while, and then for a couple of years in New Haven when he left to start Joe Rinaldi and John Hausman, and he left to start HRP.
Okay, and that was
1982? Yeah, 81, 82.
That's what I said. So if it's not 1982, there's, the first example of Bubba's memory not being so great.
It's been a long time.
It's been a long time.
It has. So shortly after Mark left to start HRP with John and Joe, I got laid off.
From the
place we had both been working.
Gotcha.
So I got laid off. I went to work for HRP out of the spare bedroom in my apartment.
Okay. Were you legit on the roster or?
No, not really.
No.
Actually, I found a picture that I had taken of my first HRP paycheck.
Oh, really?
$167.
You guys had cameras back then?
No. I found it, and I just took a picture of it within the last few years.
Oh, you found the check?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, when we were...
Did it crumble to dust? Was it like chiseled in stone?
No, it was a handwritten check signed by Joseph Rinaldi. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So I actually... Things weren't too bad. My wife was working as a full-time teacher. I was collecting unemployment and getting paid under the table.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So that's admitting to fraud, right?
I didn't know. I don't know what you're talking about.
Admit nothing?
No, I admit nothing.
Okay.
All right. finally the day came where they actually had some office space. So I started going to the office. I was doing field work, um, whatever it took back in those early days
Yeah.
to get the job done. Nobody, I mean, back then I had no idea that HRP was going to turn into what it ended up turning into.
Sure.
I was extremely fortunate to be in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
And it just all kind of fell together. So I was gainfully employed for 35 years.
35 years.
Yeah, give or take 35 years.
Yeah.
I distinctly remember back in the early days, small office we had in New Britain, when we had to make copies of a report. Somebody, usually me, would go over to the New Britain Public Library with a pocket full of dimes, and we made copies there. But at that point, we couldn't afford a copier, and no one in their right mind would lease us one.
And there weren't staples around back then. Where
No,
you could
there were no staples. No.
So was it like per sheet? Was
Yeah.
it a dime per sheet?
Dime per sheet.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had, I remember in in the supply closet, there was a box with rolls of dimes.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
now at this point, back then, how many people how many people was HRP?
Well,
Was it like,
there was John, Joe, and Mark.
yeah.
There was myself and Debbie D'Amico, employee number IV. It's 4.
That's
And
thank you for the translation.
yeah, and she would do word process, typing at an IBM Selectric typewriter from home, and I would bring her work. She would type it up. I would bring it back, and then the day she came in the office, she literally had to bring the typewriter with her.
No kidding. Yeah.
Yeah.
Loaded in the car.
Coming up these rickety stairs.
Oh, and those typewriters back then were
heavy.
hefty.
Yeah.
Yeah. You could
Mhm.
literally tie one to a body and it won't come back to the surface.
I got a feeling, in the days of computers, that they may have been used for that now. So there
this was about what, like 83? Around 83?
Well, no, it was before that. It had to be. My son was born in 80. Yeah, no, I guess it would have been around 83. Now,
Yeah, your son was like 85
my son was born
or
in
86?
85.
85, yeah.
Ooh, that's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
My son was the first child born to an HRP employee.
Well, Mark already had kids, right?
Yeah, Mark had kids. John had kids. They all had kids. And also, it just happened to work out that my son was also Mark's first nephew.
Oh, there you go.
So that required a party.
Oh, yes. We might get into that, but
Okay.
right.
So it was Debbie D'Amico, and then there was Pete Mislick.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. So
yeah.
there were other people like before they started keeping track of numbers.
Yes, there was Pete Mislick, who worked for a couple of years, and I think he ended up working at the DEP.
Yeah.
And then there was a kid named Peter Smith, who also had worked with us in New Haven. He was a young kid. I mean, he was right out of college.
Okay.
I think he eventually went to work for Pratt & Whitney, and
Oh, nice.
I lost track. I don't know
Yeah.
where
Now,
he ended up.
back to Peter Mislick.
Yes.
Peter Mislick has a famous nickname. Well, famous to us old timers. We've all heard the nickname. Can you explain a little bit about?
Well, I'm really not
Pete's
sure where the
nickname.
name came from.
Oh, see, I was hoping you knew where the name
I don't
came
really
from.
know, but his nickname was the Mole.
The Mole.
Yeah.
Kind of like Austin Powers, mole, or
I don't know. Pete was
the rodent.
Pete was a large fellow.
Okay.
Yeah, large. And he was a character. He liked to drink beer. I can tell you that.
Okay. All right.
Actually, there's a
kind of a trend with this company.
Well, you can
just
edit
saying.
this out if it needs to, but there was I'll never forget, Pete and I
Oh,
would,
don't do that.
Pete and I would do, we did a lot of work together out in the field, and we were at a place in Meriden. Remember, I go by it all the time. We were sampling monitor wells.
Okay.
Well, Pete, like I said, was a large man
Uh-huh.
with a large stomach, which made it difficult for his pants to stay up high enough. So when he would bend over to like sample a well or something, yeah, you saw things you really didn't care to see. And so apparently John Houseman got a call from our client and said,
my.
yeah, and said, the ladies in the office are complaining about your guy that you've got out here. And John said, what's the problem? And said, well, they're seeing parts of him they don't want to see.
All right. All right.
So the next day we go out, and John had bought Pete a white jumpsuit. So
Jumpsuit, what you mean, like overalls?
one piece jumpsuit. You know what a jumpsuit is?
No, that's kind of an old term.
Oh, is it? Well,
Oh, you mean like complete zip up? Almost
Yeah.
like the Tyvek.
yeah, exactly.
okay.
But, you know, it's
But
just
it was
quality. It was
cotton.
actually cotton.
It had to be nice and cool on a summer
Yeah.
day.
And that solved the problem. Of course, Pete wasn't all that
Temporarily.
crazy about it. And,
Was it? It was white.
oh yeah.
Did Pete end up sweating in that?
Well, you'd have to if you're
Okay.
human. I mean, and
A little worried about what that.
he
suit
kind of
ended up
developed
looking
a
like.
second nickname.
Oh,
after
more than
that.
one nickname.
Yeah, this was just around the office. He was known as the Pillsbury Doughboy.
Pillsbury Doughboy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pete was a good guy. He was.
So I recall
yeah.
you told me something once about John would occasionally read from this
Am I
is correct,
supposed to
right?
say this? Yeah.
Reading from the Book of Mole.
Oh yeah. Oh, I was thinking about when we
Yeah, we're not talking
when
about
we pennied him in, shimmied him into the bath.
that.
Yeah, Pete was very meticulous about his field notes. I mean, to a point where John Houseman titled his field notes. He had the yellow field book. He entitled it "The Book of Mole."
Okay.
And from time to time, after a few cocktails, and this was long after Pete left,
It was gone. Yeah.
but the Book of Mole remained, he would just read sections of it.
Random.
Yeah, just random, and it was almost biblical. And Pete was very specific about his field work.
Whatever
Yeah.
happened to those?
You know what? We don't know.
That'd be crazy
Don't-
if, like, during a search of like just stuff laying around the office, we found the Book of Mole.
It would be like, finding the Holy Grail. I mean,
Yeah.
that would be great. But I don't know whatever happened to it.
All right. So after Pete and this other gentleman, Smith, what was his name?
Peter Smith.
Peter Smith. Were you guys only hiring people named Pete?
Oh, I hadn't thought about that.
No?
Well, so far,
Sorry,
yeah.
I'm just.
Yeah, no.
Anyway, so that was, you guys were in New Britain, right?
Yes.
All right. So was that the Park Place office?
No.
Not yet.
This was it was, I can't remember the name of the street. It was in that neighborhood.
Okay.
We were above a dentist office,
Okay.
and the only stairway to this office was a set of outdoor stairs. So it was a hazard just going up the stairs in the morning to the office.
Yeah.
And it was very small. I mean, there was
Tiny.
no place to hide. It was
Okay.
small.
So the Park Place first office, how many people were in that office first? Not the Park Place one, the one you're talking about.
At the most, at any given time, there was HR&P, Debbie, myself, Pete, and Pete.
Okay. And that was basically that was like, wasn't office buildings, it was apartments. right?
Well,
It was a residential building.
no, this one was, like I said, it was above a dental office.
Oh. So it was kind of like
what's going
Are you
on?
wrecking the chair?
Coming on.
Oh,
It was above a
somebody's
dentist.
going to be mad at you. You're going to have to pay reparations for that.
That's fine. And our landlord, Scalise, Jim Scalise was his name.
That name sounds familiar.
He was a local New Britain lawyer.
Yeah, the name sounds
who was questionable at best.
questionable.
Yeah. Let's
Gotcha.
just leave it at that, because if he's still alive, he might sue me.
All right. All right. When did you guys move to the Park Place building?
Oh, I don't remember exactly when, but is that the way it went? Now that I think about it, we went from Park Place to Lexington Street.
Correct.
And then re-rented Park
A
Place.
different Park Place.
Oh, it was a different one.
Well, weren't you above a lawyer or something?
Yes, because that's where we met Deb Berardi.
Yeah.
Deb at the time. Tyler.
Yeah, she was like what, like 19 when you guys hired her. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And she's one of our 2 employees that have over 40 years
Oh, yeah?
here. Yeah.
Good for
Dave
her.
Adam yesterday had his 41st anniversary.
No kidding.
41 years.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
It went Wolfgang Cars, right? Bob Leach. Bob hired Dave.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure of that.
And Walt and Bob ended up being the next ownership group
Right.
after Mark, Joe, and John
Yes.
retired.
Mm-hmm.
Retired. Yeah.
And I still keep in touch with both of them to this day. That
Yeah.
was one of that of everything in 35 years at HRP. The best thing that came out of my career here, the people who I'll know to the day I die.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really what it is.
I mean, you spend 35 years with people.
Yeah, I could have.
They become family.
Committed second-degree murder and gotten less time.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, and Dave Adam. And Rick McPhee.
Rick McPhee,
who ended up being one of the management group, the third management group.
Yeah.
Well, Rick left a stable job. He had he had just gotten married. I don't think he had children yet. Left a stable job at Pfizer.
Ooh.
To come to work at HRP Associates.
And it was like, what, 10 people working there at the time?
Less
than that.
Yeah, probably less than that.
Wow.
And we would, usually at least once a month, we would have a poker game on Friday night. So Rick McPhee, he hadn't started working at HRP yet, but he had been hired.
Okay.
So I guess Mark invited him to the poker game. So he figured, I'll get to know the people, I would be one of the guys. It'd be great. I'm sure when he left that night, he went home and told his wife, boy, did I make a mistake.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we went poker game and drinking gin and tonics with a peristaltic pump and, and other things with a peristaltic pump.
We don't want to talk about
Yeah, we don't talk about that.
It's legal in a lot of states now, but.
Well, it's legal in this state.
That's correct.
Yeah.
I don't know about the whole peristaltic pump, though.
Well, just an
It's
apparatus.
just another delivery
Yeah, that's
system.
all. It's a delivery system. Yeah, but I am sure that Rick McPhee doubted his decisions. But in the end, it was the best decision he'd ever made.
Now, that's not the poker game that got some unexpected visitors.
No, it was a different game, but
That was
same
a different
place.
game?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had
This was at Lexington Street.
this is Lexington.
Yeah, so this is a
yeah,
couple years.
we've left Park Place. So
Yeah.
this must be somewhere around 85, because my son was born in February of 85.
All right, yeah.
And we were at Lexington Street when that debacle took place.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were playing poker again one night, and It was late, and the Park Place office, it was in a residential neighborhood, and there was a house next door, and the only thing that divided the two houses was a driveway, so they were close. Mark Positano was notorious at winning all the poker games, but this particular time, he didn't. So I don't remember what hand I had. All right, so we called. He threw his hand down. I threw my hand down. There was a lot of money in the pot, which at the time was probably $40.
That's a lot of money back in
then,
Stone Age.
Back in the day, yeah, that was a lot of money.
Sorry, Stoner Age, whichever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Mark jumps up on the table and starts screaming jokingly, "I'm gonna kill you!" And he goes on and on. Well, the next door neighbors heard it. And this is like 1 o'clock in the morning. The next door neighbors heard it.
That building was very close.
It was.
Yeah.
And next thing we knew, they were banging at the door downstairs. So John Houseman goes down, and it's the New Britain Police Department. They didn't have guns drawn, but they had the snaps off.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Prepared.
And John had to
talk them down.
Yeah. Show him that, no, there was no murder taking place in the building. Yeah. And they let us off.
Yeah.
So that was Lexington Street. We were there for, I don't remember exactly, but we filled the place. I mean, then we had to rent the building on Park Place.
Yeah.
So basically had 2 full buildings of people.
I don't think we, because I came in 86, and we didn't have Park Place yet.
Should I tell them about how I hired you?
What do you mean, the lying to me at my interview?
I would look at it more as, in hindsight, I just did you a favor.
It was complete deception.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can't argue with that. So I had hired, I had contacted, what was Vinyl Tech? What was it?
No, it was E.C. Goodwin Tech.
E.C. Goodwin Technical School. I needed some help, someone doing drafting. And so they sent me over some candidates, and there was this one kid. I hired him. Don't remember his name.
I do.
What's his name?
Bill Towns.
Oh, okay. Well, I hired Bill. Well, so now it's the day for Bill to show up for work. Hey, I get a phone call. I think I got a phone call. And he decided he wasn't coming. So I'm back to square one.
Wasn't it about he didn't have a car?
Something.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago. But yeah.
But you don't remember? We're in trouble if you don't remember stuff, because I don't remember anything.
Well, you're getting into the nitty gritty details now. I don't remember.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it had something to do with him not having a car.
So now I've got to start the process over again. So they send me this kid, 17 years old. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I got to do something to rope this one in.
I gotta lie.
Now, at the time, my office was on the back porch. It was a sun
porch.
Porch. It was a 3-season porch. Unfortunately, we had to spend 4 seasons out there.
Yes.
And the winters were cold.
Pretty cold.
Cold.
Yeah.
So at the time, I had a stereo system in there, and I would listen to NPR. And back then, NPR played classical music. Yep. And I just found it calming, and so I would play the classical music in the background. Well, now I've got this 17-year-old kid coming in for a job interview. So the first thing I do is I put on the heaviest metal station I can find.
Yeah, there was a couple of rock stations. But
Back then. Yeah.
Back then it was...
This was before Sirius XM.
WHCN.
WPLR.
Yes.
Yep. So when he came in for the interview, I had the music playing, blah, blah, blah. Everything worked out. I hired him, and he actually showed up for work.
I did.
That's him right over there.
That's me.
Yeah. 17 years old at the time. Well, the day he showed up to work, the classical music was playing again.
Yeah.
And to this day,
false pretenses.
Yeah. To this day, he accuses me of deception.
Yeah, you lied to me. Yeah.
Yeah, what are you going to do? I
Well,
was
I
desperate,
thought
man.
it was going to be awesome. I mean, I was going to have a job where I could hang out on the porch and listen to rock all day. And
Well, it ended up being that way. I mean,
I did.
yeah.
Actually, yeah,
I mean, come on.
a little bit.
Yeah.
But
Remember
it did get cold on that back porch.
Remember the time when they bought their first company cars? HRP got their first company cars. They were Peugeots,
and they had 3 different colors:
Yep.
white, black, and maroon. Or something.
Yeah. So John Houseman would come in.
Yeah.
He would
Just
park.
a little caveat. Mike and I, we were kind of a duo, and we might have played some pranks on people over the years. Just saying. We definitely played some pranks.
So John would come in the morning. He would come through the back porch where we were. He would say his pleasantries. He'd get his coffee. He'd head up to the 3rd floor where his office is. All right. So
they park right outside our window.
And he had a third-party alarm system put into his new Peugeot.
Fancy Peugeot.
Yeah, we don't know why, but that was John.
Yep.
So we would let him get up there, get all comfortable, and we'd go out and shake his car till the alarm went off.
We would rock it back and forth until the alarm went off.
Then he would have to come down and shut it off. All right. Well, this went on for a while. He took it back to the person who installed it once or twice. They said there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. Yeah, at some point, we finally stopped doing it. But
we would literally rock his car till the alarm went off, and then we would call him on his phone. John, your alarm's going off again. Come on, man. He would get all angry, come down, turn the alarm off.
Then
we'd rock it again like 5 minutes later.
Then there was a time, John's hobby at the time was he had a metal detector.
Oh.
And he would go over to, what's the name of the park?
That was Walnut Hill Park.
Walnut Hill Park at lunchtime, and he would just go around with his metal detector. So, feigning that I cared about his metal detector, I went over with him one day with a pocket full of pennies.
Yeah.
And as he's doing his metal detector thing, I'm dropping pennies.
He's sprinkling pennies.
So he picks up, it's just a penny. Probably put it in his pocket, knowing John, though. After, I don't know, probably a half a dozen pennies, he just looked at me and he goes, "You're an asshole."
Yeah. We'll bleep that.
You can bleep that.
And we might leave that. It's not a big deal. Anyway, Poor John. We picked on John.
John passed away.
Yep, we lost John this
6
year.
months ago.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was a good dude.
That hurt.
Yeah. And it was sudden too, which
Yeah, no, that hurt. It was,
But
Yep, he was a good guy.
He was.
You just had to get to know him.
He just looked so stern.
Yeah.
But he was a Marine, right?
Oh yeah, John was a Marine.
He had that like he looked like a Marine throughout my career at HRP. He had that look to him. Like you were a little worried about John
never
disciplining you.
Knew. We used to go to the Cape golfing every year.
That's what I was going to say. We had a pretty robust like golf.
We would
league.
8 or 12 of us. We would go to the Cape in May and play golf. Well, John, prior to that, had lost a lot of weight.
Yes.
He actually had a stationary bike in his office, and he would pedal while he worked.
Yeah.
And he lost a lot of weight. He looked good.
Yeah, he did.
But I have a lot of experience in losing and gaining weight, and I know one thing. You can lose all the weight you want. Eventually, it will find you. So I'm out there one day getting coffee, and John, Mr. Slim and Trim, comes out.
Suddenly, Mr. Slim.
Yeah,
and
suddenly, Mr. Slim and Trim, and he looks at me and he goes, looks like you've gained some weight.
Trim.
All right. So I just kind of filed that one in here.
Oh, yes.
Well, I don't know.
He broke the fat guy rule.
He did. He wasn't a fat guy.
Yeah, there's a fat guy rule Mike and I have.
So
you can't, a fat guy, the only person that can call a guy fat
is
another fat guy.
Yeah. Simple as that. Women don't get that, but that's the way it is. No.
Well, you don't want to get hurt.
No. So So a couple of years go by, and sure enough, the wait had found John again.
Found John.
Yep. And we're up at the Cape golfing, and John's standing over a putt. And it's a big putt. And I waited, and just before he started his backswing, I said to him, John, can you actually see that ball? He came after me with his golf club. Yeah. Payback, man.
So, like, this was all while we were, well, not the golf trips necessarily, but so we were still in New Britain.
Yeah.
And, I mean, do you have any, like, crazy stories of our time in New Britain, or are we moving to Plainville?
Well, there was the day after my son was born.
Oh, yes. Well, those were kind of legendary, those lunches.
If you remember that particular day, you have been at HRP a long time.
See, I didn't make that day because that was right before me.
Yeah.
But
you were there when Joe,
his son,
which was like 6 months later.
I had just been hired.
Yeah. And I don't think you were legal,
No,
were you?
I was not.
No.
But it was like my first week or something, and we all went out to lunch, and it was there was a lot of libation.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure I quit. I told you that
you quit.
Oh yeah. I didn't quit, but the libation. I quit. Anyway. Yeah, that was a long story. Anyway, so you go out for your son.
Yeah, my son was born on a Sunday. And so Monday, my wife's still in the hospital, so I come into work.
The day after your son is born.
Yeah, I come in. Well, because I knew, I didn't come into work. I knew there was going to be something going on.
You guys were going to go out and celebrate.
Yeah. So we put all the phones on hold and locked the door, and off we went.
Closed for business.
Closed for business. What was the name of that place? The East Side?
East Side. No. West Side. It was West Side
Deli or something like that.
Yeah, I think it was like that. Yeah.
I remember where it was. I'm sure it's not there anymore.
No, it's been gone for a while.
So there was beer and shots of Yukon Jack.
Oh my.
Oh my. Now, I had to go see my wife after this whole thing. Actually, they were supposed to be treating me, being that it was my son's birth and whatnot. Well, we had so many shots and so many beers that everybody ran out of money. So I had to empty my wallet too, just to get out of the place.
You had to pay for the celebration.
Yeah. Well, and they everybody put in what they had, and there wasn't enough to pay for the whole thing.
You guys, how many were you back then?
Probably 10 at the most.
10. Yeah.
Yeah. And I had to then go see my wife. Luckily, my wife I shouldn't say luckily. My wife had a fairly difficult labor, and she was on some fairly heavy medications. She didn't even realize that
the shape you were in.
She didn't realize her husband, the father of her child, was a drunken bum.
A little rougher on the edges. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bet the hospital saw you coming.
Oh no, but the florist across the street did.
Oh yeah?
Oh yeah. I went into the florist across the street, and I go,
you didn't have any money left.
I had an American Express.
Oh boy.
So I go in and I said, I want flowers for my wife, and I want flowers for all the nurses.
No way.
They said, all right, go sit over there. And next thing I know, they're waking me up. They put an armful of flowers in my hand and send me across the street to the hospital, and
they point me in
the right direction.
Oh my, Mike.
And I had mentioned that my first HRP paycheck was $167. Well, the bill for the flowers was $197. Oops. And again, this was 1985. Yeah, I think they had taken advantage of a drunken new father.
That's not cool.
Which should be illegal. Apparently,
well, sure.
Apparently it's not.
All right. So when we let's see, I don't know, where are we going now?
Well, we eventually outgrew Lexington Street.
Yes, we did,
and
we
rented the place on Park Place,
Yep.
and eventually outgrew that. So now we're moving to New Britain Avenue, 167 New Britain Avenue in Plainville.
Now a Taco Bell, Long John Silver's,
yes,
and a
it
Wendy's.
is. Mm-hmm. And it looks like they're doing something in the back lot.
They
over
are.
there.
Looks like that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
We could investigate more when we go for lunch.
All right. Go out there and see if we can find any fossils. So we move over there, and this was an actual office building.
Yeah. Yeah. 2-story.
HRP
Colonial Bank
purchased it. It had been a Colonial Bank, then a Fleet Bank, and I don't know if it was ever a Bank of America, but it was a 2-story building, and the first floor was kept fairly businesslike. The second floor was a frat house.
That was the animals.
Yeah.
That was us.
I was on the second floor.
No, we had good times up on the second
Oh
floor.
yeah, that's when we met people like Mike Cody,
Yep.
Adam Fox.
Yeah.
There were some
Farron.
characters, Jay Farron. Oh my goodness.
Yep. Dan. That's when Dan Titus started working with us.
Yep. Dan Titus was there.
Now our what is it? COO or CEO? EO.
Bob
He's the EO.
Simmons.
Bob Simmons.
I just figured I'd drop the name.
Yeah.
And there were some characters on that place.
No, we had a lot of fun in that building.
Dan Coburn,
the Rooster,
John Scanlon.
Man. There's that famous story Friday afternoon with those three guys.
Yeah.
Coburn, Scanlon, and Simmons. That, Dan had they were all in a larger room where there was a half wall, a wall, like a shorter wall, between 4 desks. And Dan was on one side, and John and Bob were on the other side. And Dan, one Friday afternoon, went through a couple hours of rearranging his furniture. He moved everything.
Yep.
And he was all good to go. He was very happy with it. Yeah. And so he, walked out of there very proud, looking forward to come back on Monday to his new surroundings. As soon as he left the building, John Scanlon and Bob Simmons both went and put it all back the way it was.
I distinctly remember because my office was right outside of their office.
I had a door right there too, and I could see it.
I just sat there and waited for Dan to come in that morning, and he walked into the office, and he was in there for what seemed probably 10 seconds, and he walked out, and I think he literally shook his head.
Yeah,
like
kind of like looked around. Am I in the right place?
That was funny.
That was great.
That was good stuff.
He wasn't very happy.
No.
But
no.
Oh well.
When did I see? I saw him not long ago.
Yeah, he came to an alumni. One of our yearly things that we do here.
Yeah.
I think it might have been Oktoberfest.
Yeah, I did see
and he showed up. And by the way, alumni are always invited to the big HRP things that we do every year, the annual stuff, the Oktoberfest, and what else do we have? March Madness, sausage party, that kind of stuff.
Free food.
If you're alumni, you're always invited. Yes, free food and drink and good times.
Yeah.
So that was we've had some fun in that building, and then Do you remember the pennies that we used to kick? We used to kick. We had a long hallway, all tile, and at the end of it was an office. And we used to have the desks with the metal credenzas that went up about that high on top of the desk, and we would stand at one end of the hall and kick a penny as hard as we could, and it would hit the lip of the carpet at that office and fly up into Jay Farron's credenza. It would be like ping.
They remember going on the roof and throwing snowballs at cars?
Yeah, we've thrown multiple things off
Chocolate
the
chip
roof.
cookies.
Chocolate chip cookies.
Yeah.
While people are over there gassing up at the Extra Mart.
Yes, that's right.
I'm not saying we were
mature.
nice or mature. Yeah.
And then the time we tried to get the copier onto the roof.
Yeah. We actually filmed a little bit about that. It'll come out someday. But what do you recall?
The thing is, the thing that was amazing about that, Mark Pozzanento was usually good for just about anything. But boy,
he wasn't happy.
He wasn't happy about that one.
He wasn't happy. Yeah. Let's just say he expressed extreme disappointment in me. He shook his head and said, "You, Bubba."
You.
Yeah. Sorry, Mark.
He got over it.
Yeah. Eventually he did.
Yeah. He got over it.
Yeah.
That was
so
funny.
what else? Plainville, we had a lot of fun there. Who are your more, do you have any funny stories from, we were there, what?
Oh, long time.
10?
Yeah,
15
probably.
10 years?
It was a long time.
Was it 95 we moved and then we moved here in 05?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've been here for 20 years. It'll be 20 years in December.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, that was fun moving that.
Yeah. No, it wasn't. That
That was
fun.
actually,
Well, we got lucky.
I like projects like that. Well, we got Creighton Quinn.
We got Creighton Quinn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I keep meaning to call him.
You should call him.
I know I should.
There's still a dolly around here that has
I know.
his signature
He
on the
autographed
day that
it.
he moved us.
Yeah.
A moving
Yeah.
dolly that he signed for you.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
Creighton was a good guy.
Creighton's good. Creighton's a good guy.
And then he definitely sold us some cubicles at a profit.
Hey.
But we needed them.
Well, he started his own. He started his own business because at the time he was working for Joyce Moving Company.
Joyce, it was.
Yeah.
It was Joyce.
Yeah, and
And he
shortly thereafter he started his own company. And,
Brown, I think it was.
Yeah, Brown Office Systems or something.
Yep.
And he would buy up. At the time, the way the economy was, a lot of office spaces, a lot of offices were closing, so he would buy up all the cubicles and whatnot and sell them to us for a profit.
We're still using a bunch of them.
Oh, I know.
There's still a bunch of them out there.
Yeah.
I mean, they're nearing the end of their life cycle because you can't buy parts for them anymore. No, not the electrical part.
Oh, yeah, because I remember I had a stockpile of those because those connectors would.
We had a stockpile.
Oh, we don't. No more. More.
We still have a Connex out back that had.
So when something
parts.
goes wrong with them, who do you call?
We kind of used our what we had for spare parts, and one of our guys helped.
Yeah.
But there are other guys. We have electricians and stuff that'll help out, especially if it's that kind of stuff.
Oh, and one of the defining moments of HRP was when we were in the Plainville office and we got the Navy contract.
Oh yes,
that was a major moment. I mean, that took us up a notch when we got that. We got a contract with the Navy that basically covered the East Coast, all sorts of different projects. And it kept us busy for years.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, and they paid their bills.
Yeah, that was what was good about the federal government.
Yeah,
they paid their bills.
It may have taken a while, but they paid.
Yeah.
That was big. That was when 312 started.
It was around there. Yeah,
it was because the day we found out we got that contract, Mark had gotten a letter from the Navy, and it was one letter. He just assumed it was a rejection notice. So I think it sat for a while, and then he decided to open it and found out that we had gotten a contract, and we had gone up against some big companies.
Yeah.
So when the word got out that we had gotten that contract, well, the whole office went over to J. Timothy's. And I think that was the birth of 312.
It wasn't, but I remember that. Yeah, we did go over to JTs.
Yeah.
Yeah. 312 was Tommy and Doug and Zeker.
Oh God.
They went over one Friday afternoon, had a beer, and came back, and then they did it again the next. Yeah.
This is totally unrelated, but when my granddaughter was born, she was 2.5. My wife and I spent a month. They live my son, daughter-in-law, and 2 grandchildren live in Manhattan. So my son rented us an apartment, and we went down and stayed for 5 weeks, and to help out with the baby. And my son was interviewing for a job and all this, a lot of things. So we were there to help. And my granddaughter, who was a newborn at the time, to soothe herself, she would put her hand in her mouth.
Yeah.
And kind of suck on her hand, and it soothed her, and it kept her calm and everything. Well, she could end up getting the whole fist in her mouth.
Like somebody else.
So from that moment on, it was known as she's doing the Doug Pelham.
Yep. Yeah. Doug was able to put his whole fist
in his mouth.
Plus, he could chug a beer in like a second and a half. You could do that thing where you open your throat and it was
just
gone.
Go.
That's why you didn't. Yeah, 312s were quick with Doug.
So, the Navy contract, that was a big moment. That changed everything.
No, it definitely.
All of a sudden, we had people on the road all the time and going to different bases and security clearances
all over the nation.
Oh yeah, we were all over the place.
Yeah,
that was big. Was
that before we opened up New York and South Carolina? Navy, or was it when we already had those offices?
I remember correctly, South Carolina was first. So that was probably before the Navy contract.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Mark had his brother-in-law's brother had a company, small engineering firm down there. So we kind of did a joint venture with them to start the office.
Yeah.
And eventually it just became HRP. And
after some time. Yeah.
And New York also opened in that same time frame, whether it was before the Navy contract or after, I'm not sure.
Yeah. But it was, those two kind of like opened around, they were pretty close.
Oh, yeah, they were. There was a competition between.
That's when we started branching out.
Tad and Tommy about who was going to do the best, which is a good thing. And they're both still at HRP.
Both still doing it, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Actually, Tad's our COO.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I just saw him on my way in here burning from a telemeeting.
You interrupted their meeting.
I did. What are you going to do to me? Fire me?
So, all right. So 35 years. What are your more like memorable stories? Like what, or people, like who impacted your life kind of like the most around here? I know you and Debbie D'Amico have always been like.
Well, we had known each other before. We had known each other. We had worked together before HRP.
Well, see, you didn't mention that.
Oh yeah, we worked together. Debbie D'Amico, Walt Gankars, Mark Posidento, and myself.
Whole crew.
We worked at a regional. Well, I worked at a regional planning agency in Middletown. This was back in the late 70s, mid to late 70s.
Oh, they had government that
long
ago?
Yeah. John Tyler was president.
Who?
John Tyler. You wouldn't remember him.
President of what?
The United States.
Okay.
There was a John Tyler who was president of the United States.
You're the political science graduate, not me.
So,
don't you have a degree in like?
I have an associate in political science.
There you go.
How I ended up at HRP, I'll never know, but
yeah.
it turned me into a ranting, raving liberal.
All right then.
So Debbie, Walter, Mark, and I all worked in the same building, I should say.
Yep.
And that's how we got to know each other. And I mean, Debbie D'Amico, this winter I went down, and my wife and I went down and spent a week with her and her husband in Florida.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're close.
How long has it been? You've known them, gotta be like 50 years.
It had to have been, like 78. So,
Wow, almost 50
long
years.
time. Long time.
Yeah. How
Jeez.
about that?
Wow.
You're
That's
old.
scary. Yeah, I am. 71. Closer
71.
Closer to 72. Yeah.
I'm almost, I'm getting there.
How old are you?
I'll be 57.
57.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, and it, like I said before, it's the people. I mean, I met some people. I met people that I can think of one person I didn't get all that well, but we don't need to mention that name. But I mean, everybody we worked with over the years were cool. I mean, everybody got it.
I think that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, people got it. It was work hard, play hard. That's what it was.
Yep.
I mean, it was, especially back in the early days, it was crazy. I mean, I slept at the office several times. My wife wasn't crazy about it, but yeah, I mean, you did what you had to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun. And the thing is, it was fun. I never once hated going to work. And
Yeah, that's kind of a big deal.
that is a big deal.
If you can
That's a large deal.
have a career where
Yeah.
you don't hate your job,
I don't hate my job.
you're already winning.
The people I worked with were wonderful.
Yeah.
There's so many people. 600 and some odd, you say?
Well, yeah,
I'm
we're over 650
I'm trying to think
now.
It must have been in the
yeah.
because I've been gone for 6.5 years.
Has it been that long?
It has been that
Wow.
long. And by the way, retirement is a wonderful thing.
Yeah. Thank you, Joe Rinaldi.
Thank you, Joe Rinaldi. Joe Rinaldi set up the initial, way back when, the initial profit sharing plan for employees, which then later became a 401k plan. When I got close to retirement, I sent Joe an email, and I thanked him for setting that up, because if it weren't for that, I would not have been retiring, because over 35 years, it turned into a decent chunk of change.
Yeah.
So I sent him an email and I thanked him, and he got back to me. So, I told Mark about this. I'd been in touch with Joe. He lives down in North Carolina, South Carolina, one of those Carolinas.
One of those Carolinas.
One of them. And so I mentioned to Mark that I had thanked Joe for setting that up. And Mark said to me, he said, well, you know what? I should have probably thanked him too, because if it had been up to me, I spent all the money.
Yeah.
And if it had been up to John, he would have kept all the money.
No, Joe did us right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That
No, he
worked
did.
out.
He did. And Walt Gankars and Bob Leach,
Yep.
who were the second generation of management, they kind of took the company into the next generation.
Absolutely.
I mean, you had to, at some point, a bit of a business structure had to be instituted, or, company just isn't going to survive. And they did it, but they did it in such a way where the core values remained.
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
mean, the employees the people were the important thing, and we never really lost that. I consider Walt Gankars and Bob Leach to be two of my closest friends.
Yeah.
I mean, they both have moved away, and I don't see them that often, but I keep in touch with both of them, because they made a huge difference in everybody's life.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when Rick McPhee, Andy White, and Howard Hurd took over in the third generation, they did the same thing. Again, you had to institute some business
Yeah.
They had to institute some policies. I mean, HR had changed. I mean,
HR has changed. It's
Yeah.
evolved
yeah, I mean,
tremendously
everything. I mean,
in the last
in
20
the early
years.
days of HRP, it was almost as though the work just showed up at the back door
Yeah.
because there was a time where they were closing down all these old plating shops and whatnot, and the business just kind of rolled in. Well, that didn't last forever.
Nope.
And you had to market. You had to
Yeah.
you had to go out there and look for the work.
Yep.
And they did a good job of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, and thanks to them, a bunch of us were gainfully employed for a very long time.
Yeah. 35 years is nothing to sneeze
Yeah,
at.
nobody does that anymore.
No.
I mean, think about it.
No, true. That's very
I had
true.
a conversation with my son who I think the longest he has been at a job since he graduated from college has been like 2.5 years.
Wow, really?
Yeah. And
Well,
I
he's
said,
been at some pretty big companies.
well, and I said to him, I said, I don't, how does that look on your resume? And the first thing he looked at me and go, what's a resume? But yeah, I mean, it's a totally different world now.
Yeah.
I mean, people don't stay. If something better
No.
comes along, they go. And that happened in HRP also, but not to that extent. I mean,
Yeah, we've had a lot of people come through the doors, and stay for a short time
Yeah,
or a long time.
and
But
take the experience and
absolutely.
move. Yeah,
I
and
kind of think that was their business model back in the 90s. Was like they would hire kids out of college.
Yeah.
And the kids would come on for 2, 3,
Yeah.
4 years
they'd have
until they get all this experience
Yep.
under their belt, and then they'd move on. But it kind of worked for the company.
yeah.
We were constantly hiring this younger group, and they would mature under HRP and then move on. But yeah, you had a few people that hung on
Yeah.
for a while,
And there's also, I mean, there was the core people that had,
Absolutely.
way back had been there,
Yeah.
like employee number 30 and below who,
No, that's a good number. Yeah, 30
Yeah.
and below.
yeah.
That there's still a few of those left.
Mm-hmm.
I believe Dave Adam is the only employee under
Single
the
digit?
10.
Is he
Yeah.
a single digit?
Yep,
He's
and-
probably the last one.
Deb is, I believe, number 10.
Okay. Yeah, because Bob and Walt must have been in the single digits.
And then, I think, because I think Skip used to call Deb Red number 10.
Red number 10.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So there's a lot of people from way back then that have come through. Who are some of your favorites? Like, I know Mike Cody's one of them.
Yeah.
Mike Cody is such a great guy.
But Mike Cody, he and Adam Fox.
Adam, I know how close you were to Adam and
were-
Robin as well.
Yeah. I just talked to
Yeah.
Robin just the other day.
Great. How are they doing?
They're doing great.
Tell them I
Yeah.
said hello.
I
Tell
called
them
her.
to watch your podcast.
Yeah. I did. I talked to Robin. Well, I emailed back and forth with Adam a while back, and then my wife and I want to take our family on a vacation in April, and we need to have. It's got to be someplace that's kid friendly and whatnot. And I
Yeah.
know Robin. They had gone to places in Mexico and whatnot with their kids, so I called her up to get some info, and we talked for an hour.
So, what, looking back, is there anything you would have done differently? Like, even from the beginning, is there anything you would have done differently?
There were times when I thought that there were some times when, I kind of felt like, I wasn't really upper management. But now that I look back on it, I was very happy where I was. I didn't want those headaches.
Less,
yeah. I mean, yeah.
less weight on your shoulders.
Bingo. Yeah. And I was always treated very fairly. I was able to retire, and
How old were you when you retired?
just shy of 65. Yeah, just like
When was Social Security? What was the age you collect without?
65.
65.
My age,
Oh,
my
perfect.
age was 65.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah,
That's what I want to do.
there you go. What's
Not gonna-
what's
maybe
your age?
67.
What's your Social Security age? You know?
Like 67, I think.
Yeah, no, I was
For, like, full
65, so that
benefits.
worked out.
Yeah, this is boring. This is boring.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, it was the people. It was always the people. It was so much fun at times, especially in the early days. Oh my God. I would not, my wife was a teacher. She taught 7th grade language arts and she loved it. She loved teaching. I didn't tell her all the fun that we had at work because
Oh, yeah.
she wasn't having that kind of fun.
No, I don't think a lot of people were.
No, probably
I
not.
mean-
Remember the beer man? Of
Totally.
Lexington Street, we had a
Delivery.
A beer man who would deliver beer twice a week.
Yeah.
Restock the refrigerator.
I remember a lot of things about Lexington Street, and I also have forgotten a lot of things about Lexington Street, but
George Hogue.
George.
George.
And yes. So, yeah, I remember on that back porch, like you said, it was a 3-season porch, but we're out there in the winter.
Yeah.
And there's people, I sat right next to that door, and they would be loading the van.
Yep.
And with that door open, and I'm sitting there drafting with, and back then we were doing things with ink on Mylar
Yep.
by hand with Leroy guides, right?
And you couldn't wear gloves and do that.
I did. I wore gloves.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, thin gloves.
Oh, the fingerless gloves?
It was just crazy. And we had like ashtrays on our desks. We're like smoking right at our desk.
We used to go out. Remember? Well, you didn't do it, but we would go out at lunchtime and we would go and jog in the park.
Yeah.
I mean, go up by the
remember that.
hospital, come all the way back
Yeah.
down. It was a good jog.
No, that was.
I'd get back to the office, and the first thing I would do is light up a cigarette.
Yep. I don't know. I don't get it. I remember we used to we had the yearly football game,
Oh,
and
God.
the first one, it was in New Britain. It had been pouring, and it was like, I don't know, 8 of us, and we go down to Walnut Hill Park, and we came back so covered in mud.
Yeah.
It was just like head to toe, and we took a picture. I wish I could find that picture.
Yeah.
But I remember that game. It was only like 8 of us, but it was a blast.
I remember when it was 2-on-2.
2-on-2.
It was Walt. I think it was Walt and I against Mark and Rick McPhee. Yeah, I think
That's where
the way it went.
first football game started.
Yep, 2-on-2.
Wow, that's crazy.
Down in Walnut Hill Park.
How'd that go?
Huh?
Could you rush,
I don't.
or did you have to just?
I don't remember just how we did it, but yeah, yeah, it was
Anyway.
2-on-2.
Well, it's evolved a little bit, and actually we are looking into possibly evolving the game again, and we have one of our guys coaches a flag football,
Oh yeah,
and because we're older and we get hurt more often.
no kidding.
I'm hurting right now just sitting here.
There were many
Yeah.
Thanksgivings.
Oh,
that
I couldn't eat the next day.
I couldn't get up from the table. I mean,
No,
just
The next day was a train wreck.
Oh.
Thanksgiving was a mess.
my wife diplomatically basically told me, knock it off.
Yeah. Because we would play the
Too
game
old for this foolishness.
with our, coolers on the sideline. So you kind of get started.
Like, you get
And then
loosened
we'd end
up.
up at J. Timothy's closing that place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the next day was
Thanksgiving, you get up and
Oh, God.
not in good shape.
It was
And
not good.
There were a couple of times when I got a little injury and like had stitches in my lip and was drinking my Thanksgiving
Through a
dinner
straw.
through a straw because I couldn't eat. I couldn't even open my mouth. It was Anyway, thank God I don't.
One
do
other
that stuff
person I want to
anymore.
mention, because he deserves some spotlight. Bob Leach.
Yeah, I what I was thinking is I got to do a series where are they now and get those guys and.
Well, Bob was. If you didn't know Bob, you were afraid of Bob.
Bob scared the heck out of me So when we started here,
Yeah.
when they took over, when we moved here, they were already, it was already Bob and Walt.
Yes.
Bob scared the hell out of me. And by the
just
end
in general, or
yeah, like I felt like I couldn't talk to Bob because he was just like this intimidating presence. At the end of his tenure, I was so sad that he was leaving. He was a teddy bear. Like he just knew. Yeah. He had that way. He knew. He was intimidating, but he knew when he could say, "Hey, man, you doing okay?"
And the thing is, you could have. I remember one specific time. I mean, I had a knockdown, drag out argument with Bob to the point where some people would have probably fired me, but Bob didn't. And Bob won because he was the boss. The next day, it's like it never happened. Bob would just, he did not hold a grudge.
Water under the bridge.
He did not hold a grudge. It was a new day. I miss Bob a lot.
Well, I heard he lives in one of the Carolinas.
He does. He lives in one of the Carolinas near where Joe Rinaldi lives in one of the Carolinas.
Well, you're retired. Take a road trip.
Yeah, I've thought about it. I have thought about it.
You think he would answer the door? If you're there ringing his doorbell, is Bob going to open the door?
I drove to Florida. This was a number of years ago. I drove to Florida with Mark and else. I don't remember who, but we stopped and we met Bob. At a bar. Yeah. And a couple of cocktails.
How's he look?
Well, this was way back when.
Oh, way back.
I've seen him since then. He's got friends up here, and was it last year, 2 years ago? We met him down in Debbie D'Amico and I met him down in Old Saybrook. Had a couple of beers and a burger.
All right, we'll send him this recording. And
Bob was a special
his heart will
person
grow
for
3
me.
sizes.
Bob meant a lot to me.
Yeah, Bob's a good dude.
Yep. And nobody
like
knew
I
it.
said,
Most people did not
when
know
Bob
it.
was leaving, I just, I knew I was going to miss him.
Yeah, because people were afraid of Bob. And they, that was probably a good thing. But those of us who knew him knew he was a puppy dog.
I found that out towards the end.
Yeah.
He was somebody you could go in and
sit
down and talk to him,
exactly.
be completely
and
honest.
that goes back
no
to
judge,
it's the people.
No judgment, not judgmental. Sorry, I had a little vowel movement there.
Oh. I met Bob. Bob and I worked at the same place in New Haven that Mark worked at, Flaherty Giavera Associates. Mark in the Knights of Columbus building on the 13th floor. This building had a 13th floor. It was owned by what's this organization? The Knights of Columbus. They owned the building, and apparently they weren't afraid of a 13th floor.
Okay.
Figured they'd be protected. So this place was rough. And I mean, it was the exact opposite of HRP. It was not work hard, play hard. It was just work hard.
That's what I was going to say. From my recollection of what you
and a
told
lot
me.
of HRP came because Mark Posidento wanted to be the exact opposite of that place.
Yeah.
And we were. I ended up getting laid off laid off. I didn't do it wrong, but it was a sort of place that I worked on the same job for 2 years. The day the job went out the door, so did I.
Wow. Nice to know you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, anyways, that's where I first met Bob Leach. And I didn't know him. We would pass each other in the hallway and just say, morning, how are you? Blah, blah, blah. Well, one day, there was this asphalt park at the bottom of the building, and there were park benches. At lunchtime, I was down there, just sitting on the bench, dreading going back into the building. And this guy parks his butt next to me on the bench and begins to go on a rant about how in the hell do you work at this place? This is terrible. It's constant. He went on and on and on, having no idea that I could have very well have been the owner's son.
Right.
He didn't know. Well, that was my first introduction to Bob Leach.
Bob goes on a rant.
Bob went on a
A
rant.
stranger goes on a rant.
So we introduced ourselves formally
Nice.
and known him ever since.
Good.
Yeah. He denies, by the way, that ever happened.
Really?
It did.
Are you misremembering?
Oh, no, it happened.
Yeah.
I actually, 12, 13 years ago, I was at a doctor's appointment in New Haven, and the bench was still there.
No kidding.
So I went and sat on the bench,
Took a selfie.
put my arm around an invisible person, and had my wife take my picture, and I sent it to Bob.
What's your word of the day today, Mike Peck?
Actually, I was thinking about another game we used to play.
Uh-oh. And what's this?
It was you, me, and Murdoch.
Wasn't it word of the day?
No, I don't remember word of the day.
You used to come in with a word of the day.
Did
you would
I?
come in and every day. Yeah. Well, there's one that sticks out in my mind, but we're not.
Oh,
gonna
okay.
mention
Well,
it.
I'll take your word for that.
Yeah.
Don't you remember? Guess what color underwear Mike's wearing today?
Oh, yeah. No, I
do
think
remember
I blocked that one
Yeah.
out. Yeah. I wasn't a fan of thinking of you in any form of undress.
Well,
So
but I always had to
Yeah.
prove it.
I remember Murdoch told me that he remembered that.
Yeah, did he? Yeah.
But you had to prove it? I wasn't guessing.
I think you did.
Yeah, anyway.
And there was Norton. Dave Norton.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had to lay him off. I felt terrible.
So I took Norton the day he went down to Mark's office.
Yeah.
Mark.
Well, I
Yeah.
went with him because
Yeah.
I couldn't.
Well, I took Norton because, I mean, I didn't want the guy just going home.
Yeah.
So I took him to Sliders, and we were there a few hours, and he lost his pink slip, which is what you gave him
Yeah.
so he could collect unemployment.
Collect unemployment.
He lost it that day, so he had to go back and ask Deb for another one. He had to get another pink slip. Yep. And then when he got rehired,
Yeah, he did get rehired.
he went into Mark, and Mark was like, "Hey, why'd you leave last time?"
That sounds like Mark.
and Dave told him, he was like, "Well, you laid me off."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh."
Speaking of laying off, another person who got laid off on that same day, I have been running into constantly.
Who's this now?
Santo Medico.
Oh, Santo. Yeah.
I see him at the gym in the morning.
Yeah.
Not every day, but quite a bit.
Loop him into the alumni.
Yeah, I don't think you want to do.
No, he doesn't want any part of it.
I don't know.
Well, he's a couple generations back.
Yeah, he's a few generations.
Yeah. I mean, that was still Mark back then.
Oh
Mark-
yeah,
Mark, John, and
was
Joe.
this was still in Plainville. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He got laid off that day. Norton got laid off that day. Oh God, the PA Bob.
Was that
Bob
our first?
Stewart?
Was that the first time we had layoffs?
Oh yeah, and Marcus told me that
Bob
they
Stewart.
procrastinated because nobody wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And he said, we procrastinated so long that by the time we finally did it, we probably didn't need to.
Oh, all right. We're gonna.
Yeah.
Anyway, I always enjoy sitting down and talking with you. Yeah. So hopefully we'll be able to do this again.
Oh, Bubba, you and I go back a long ways.
A little bit.
A little bit.
But
Long
you're
ways.
like my, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, you're like my father.
I don't know about that, but yeah, I'll
Well,
take
yeah,
that.
I mean, the nurse.
I'll take that.
The nurse thought you were. Anyway, Mike took me up to the hospital up in Boston, and he's only 14 years older than me. But we get up there, and
How long ago was this? This
was 2007.
Okay, so 18 years ago.
2008.
So I was a mere 53. I was younger
Yeah.
then than you are now.
Yeah, I was 39.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I was 53.
And we were waiting for the nurse to tell me my room was ready. And she came out and went to Mike instead of me and went, "Sir, your son's room is ready." And I went, "I'm sorry, excuse me."
Yeah, could you
And
repeat
she
that?
said, I told your father your room is ready. And I just started laughing because I couldn't help it. I was like, she said you're old.
Those were some fun trips.
Yeah, well, kind of fun. I mean, kind of had some stuff going on that wasn't all
It
that
was,
fun.
but know.
Mike Peck took good care of me way back then.
Try to, Bubba.
So I'm going to say thank you for coming in today.
Okay, well, my pleasure.
We're going to wrap it up for
You're
now.
paying for lunch, right?
I'll buy you lunch, yes.
I mean, I'm retired on a fixed income.
Yeah, okay. He's got more money than I do. Anyway, I wanted to thank everybody for watching this today, and this was Storytime with Uncle Mike. I'm Bubba, and saying make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications. We're going to see you the next time. Y'all take care. Bye-bye.